The massive council chamber floated silently above the planet Centrolis. Inside the enormous crystal structure, representatives from 300 alien civilizations had gathered. They believed today would be nothing more than another ordinary meeting. Another decision. Another order. Another species forced to obey. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council had ruled without challenge. No civilization had ever dared to question them. Until today. Admiral Minho Park stood alone at the center of the chamber. The only human. His simple blue military uniform looked almost insignificant compared to the glowing armor, ancient robes, and alien technology surrounding him. To the galaxy, humans were young, primitive. A species that had only recently reached the stars. A species that should know its place. But Minho knew something they did not. Humanity had never survived by knowing its place. It survived by refusing to accept one. The chamber fell silent as High Chancellor Vexar rose from his throne. The massive reptilian leader towered 3 meters tall. His silver scales reflected the artificial sunlight that filled the room. His voice thundered through the translation systems. Human representative, the council has reached its decision. Minho did not move. The outer human colonies will be transferred to council authority. These worlds are required for the greater stability of the galaxy. A pause. You have 48 hours to comply. The words echoed. Everyone waited for the human response. Minho had expected this. For months, Earth's intelligence network had warned him. The council was not negotiating. They were taking. The outer colonies were humanity's lifeline. They provided resources, energy, and homes for millions. Giving them up would cripple Earth. And the council knew it. This was not a request. It was a test. They wanted to know one thing. Would humans fight, or would they kneel? Minho raised his head. With respect, Chancellor. The chamber grew colder. Humanity declines your demand. Silence. Absolute silence. Hundreds of alien species stared at him. Some hissed. Some clicked their claws. Some simply could not believe what they heard. Vexar slowly narrowed his eyes. You refuse the Galactic Council? His voice became darker. No species has denied us in 4,000 years. He stepped forward. The last civilization that resisted was erased. The screens behind him showed images of dead worlds. Those planets now serve as mining colonies. His eyes locked onto Minho. Do you desire the same fate for Earth? For a moment, Minho felt the weight of billions of lives. He thought about his family, his daughter, every human child looking toward the stars. But he also understood something. Surrender would not save them. It would only delay their destruction. Humanity wants peace, Minho said. But we will never trade away our future. His voice became stronger. If the Council wants our colonies, he looked directly at Vexar. You will have to take them. The chamber exploded. Hundreds of voices filled the air. Some demanded his arrest. Others laughed. They believed a human had just threatened the most powerful empire in the galaxy. The military advisors calculated their victory. Humanity had only 200 warships. Old ships. Outdated ships. The Council controlled millions. The outcome seemed obvious. Vexar raised his hand. Instant silence. Very well, human. His expression showed no anger. Only confidence. The Council will give you one final mercy. Our enforcement fleet will arrive at Earth within 72 hours. When they arrive, you will surrender, or your civilization will disappear. Minho bowed slightly. Not in fear, only in respect for military tradition. I will deliver your message, Chancellor. He turned toward the exit. And I will deliver one from humanity. The doors opened. We are not the weak species you believe us to be. If you bring war to our home, he looked back. You will regret it. Several aliens laughed. A massive Velkari ambassador stepped forward. You cannot even build proper shields for your ships. His armored body moved as he spoke. Your fleet will burn in minutes. Your colonies will belong to us. Your people will serve us. Minho looked at him calmly. Then he walked away. Every step carried the weight of a decision that could mean humanity's end, or the beginning of its greatest victory. As the doors closed behind him, Chancellor Vexar gave the order. Prepare the enforcement fleet. 5,000 warships. Send them to Earth. 3 days later, Captain Jiho Kim stared into the darkness beyond Neptune. The Kuiper Belt stretched endlessly before him. Millions of frozen asteroids drifted through the void. But hidden among those rocks was something the galaxy had never seen. A fleet. A human fleet. 8,000 warships waited silently. No lights. No signals. No movement. For 30 years, humanity had built them in secret. The galaxy believed Earth was weak. The galaxy believed humanity had only a few hundred ships. They were wrong. Very wrong. Captain, Lieutenant Sora Kang said from communications. We have confirmation. Her voice remained steady. The Council fleet has entered the solar system. Jiho looked at the tactical screen. 5,000 enemy ships. Exactly as predicted. They're heading toward Mars, she continued. Jiho nodded. Then he opened the fleet channel. 8,000 captains heard his voice. This is Captain Kim. Today, we fight for every world humanity has built. We fight for every person who believes we deserve a future. They think we are weak. A pause. They are about to learn. We are not weak. We are not afraid. And we will never surrender. Deep inside the asteroid field, Commander Tae Hung Cho watched the enemy fleet. His stealth ships remained invisible. For days, he had studied their movements, their patterns, their weaknesses. His final report reached Admiral Park. The Council is using standard formation. No scouts. No flanking units. They believe numbers alone will win. Tae smiled. The Council had been fighting the same way for thousands of years. They had never needed creativity. They had always won through power. But humanity had spent decades studying them. And humanity had learned. Beneath the Korean peninsula, inside Earth's deepest military facility, Dr. Hyun Lee monitored the final weapons systems. She had spent 20 years creating the technology that would decide humanity's fate. The Council had stronger shields, bigger ships, more weapons. But humans had something different. Adaptation. Every missile could think. Every weapon could adjust. Every ship could disappear. The quantum displacement drives were ready. All systems green, Hyun reported. The fleet is ready. Admiral Minho Park sat aboard Earth's flagship, the Indomitable. The holographic display showed the entire solar system. The enemy fleet approached Mars. A perfect formation. A perfect mistake. Minho looked at the screen. Then gave one order. Begin Protocol Omega. Across the Kuiper Belt, 8,000 human warships awakened. Their engines ignited together. A wave of light spread through the darkness. Space itself twisted. The ships disappeared. Then appeared again. Then disappeared once more. The Council fleet watched in confusion. They had never seen technology like this. They had no name for it, no defense against it. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council felt something they had forgotten. Fear, because they were not attacking a weak species. They had awakened a sleeping one. His ship was smaller than the Council's capital ships, but it was faster and deadlier. As the displacement jump completed, he found himself exactly where he wanted to be, behind the Council fleet left flank. Around him, 200 other destroyers appeared from nowhere. The Council ships didn't even have time to turn. All batteries fire at will, Junho ordered calmly. The Retribution's railguns opened fire. Solid projectiles accelerated to impossible speeds, slammed into Council shields. The first few shots were absorbed, but then the shields began to fail. Human weapons were designed to focus fire, to overwhelm defenses with precision rather than raw power. Within seconds, 3 Council cruisers were venting atmosphere, their hulls torn open by weapons they couldn't stop. Lieutenant Sora launched her fighter along with 3,000 others. The Council had fighters too, but they were slow and clumsy compared to human craft. She dodged incoming fire easily, her targeting computer tracking 12 enemy ships at once. Her missiles were small but smart, able to swerve around obstacles and find weak points in enemy armor. She fired 6 times in 3 seconds, and 6 council fighters exploded. "This is easier than the simulations," she reported, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. All across the battlefield, the council fleet was being torn apart. They had expected an easy victory against primitive humans. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that was everywhere at once, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before they could respond. Council captains screamed orders, trying to form defensive positions, but human tactics were too unpredictable. Every time they thought they understood the pattern, it changed. Admiral Tormach commanded the council fleet from his battleship. He watched in growing horror as his forces crumbled. How is this possible? Intelligence said they had only 200 ships. Where did they get 8,000? And what kind of drives are those? His tactical officer had no answers. The human fleet was using technology the council had never seen, tactics they had never encountered, and showing a level of coordination that seemed impossible. Mino watched the battle unfold from the Indomitable. Everything was going according to plan. The council had expected to fight scared colonists with outdated weapons. Instead, they were fighting soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment, using ships designed specifically to counter council advantages. Focus fire on their command ships. Let's cut off their communications. The battle raged for 14 hours. Slowly, inevitably, the council fleet fell apart. Ships that tried to retreat were hunted down by human destroyers. Ships that tried to fight were overwhelmed by superior tactics. By the time the sun rose over Mars, the battle was over. 4,200 council ships were destroyed. 600 had surrendered. Only 200 managed to escape, fleeing in random directions. The wreckage of the council fleet floated in space around Mars. Thousands of destroyed warships drifted like metal graves, their crews dead or dying. Emergency beacons flashed in the darkness, calling for help that would never come. Captain Jiho walked through the captured council battleship, his marines securing every corridor. The alien crew had surrendered quickly once they realized resistance was pointless. Now they sat in the cargo bay, guarded by soldiers who looked almost bored. "Unbelievable," muttered Colonel Dene John, as he examined the council ship's bridge. He was in charge of all marine operations, and he had been expecting fierce resistance. Instead, the council soldiers had given up after less than 10 minutes of fighting. These are supposed to be the galaxy's greatest warriors. They fight like they've never seen real combat before. Jiho understood what Duen meant. The council had been dominant for so long that they had forgotten how to fight when things went wrong. Their tactics were rigid. Their soldiers trained to follow orders without thinking. When human forces did something unexpected, the council troops simply froze. "Start downloading their computer systems. I want every piece of data they have. Ship designs, fleet positions, communication codes, everything." Meanwhile, Admiral Minho broadcast the battle footage across every communication channel in the galaxy. He wanted every species to see what had happened. The message was simple and clear. Humanity could not be conquered. Within hours, the video reached millions of worlds. Aliens who had never heard of Earth suddenly knew the name of the species that had shattered a council fleet. Some were impressed, others were terrified, but everyone was talking about humanity. On Centralis, High Chancellor Vexar watched the footage in stunned silence. His advisors scrambled around him, trying to explain how this disaster had happened. Admiral Tormarmach had barely escaped with his life, and his report made no sense. 8,000 human ships, impossible technology, superior tactics. The Council had ruled for 12,000 years, precisely because no one could challenge them militarily. Yet here was proof that a species they had dismissed as primitive had just destroyed 5,000 warships. "This is unacceptable," Vexitar hissed, his claws digging into his throne. "Assemble the Second Armada. 12,000 ships. I want Earth reduced to rubble. I want every human colony burned. They have humiliated the Council, and they will pay with extinction." But not everyone in the Council chambers agreed. The Kurani representative, Ambassador Valna, stood carefully. Her species had been under Council rule for 6 centuries, forced to mine resources and pay crushing taxes. "Chancellor, perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have proven they can defend themselves. Maybe we should offer peace." Vexar turned his cold eyes on her. The Council does not negotiate with rebels. We destroy them. If we show weakness now, every species in the galaxy will think they can defy us. The humans will be made an example of what happens when you refuse the Council's authority. Back in the Sol system, humanity was not celebrating. They had won the first battle, but everyone knew the war was just beginning. Dr. Hygen analyzed the captured Council technology in her laboratory. What she found was both encouraging and disturbing. Their weapons are powerful but old, she explained to Minho over a video call. The Council stopped innovating centuries ago. They've been building the same ships using the same tactics, because nothing ever challenged them. But that means we know exactly what they'll do next. Minho studied the star charts showing Council territory, 12,000 systems under their control, with military bases scattered across hundreds of worlds. Even with 8,000 ships, humanity was massively outnumbered. The Council could afford to lose fleets. Humanity could not. We need allies. Send messages to every species that's ever complained about Council rule. Let them know we're fighting for freedom, not conquest. Captain Yunji Park commanded the Third Fleet, 2,000 ships tasked with raiding Council supply lines. She was younger than most admirals, promoted quickly because of her brilliant tactical mind. Now she planned strikes on Council logistics bases, targeting the fuel depots and ammunition factories that kept their war machine running. If they want to send 12,000 ships against us, let's make sure those ships have nothing to fight with. Lieutenant Sora had become famous overnight. Video of her fighter dancing through enemy fire had spread across human colonies, and she was being called the Angel of Mars. She found the attention embarrassing. I was just doing my job, she told reporters, but they wouldn't listen. They needed heroes, and she had become one, whether she wanted to or not. But fame came with pressure. In the next battle, everyone would be watching her, expecting miracles. Commander Taehyung's stealth ships continued their reconnaissance missions deep in Council territory. What they discovered was alarming. The Council was mobilizing not just the Second Armada, but auxiliary fleets from a dozen sectors. They were preparing an invasion force so large it could overwhelm Earth through sheer numbers. Taehyung sent his reports back to Minho, adding his own analysis. They're not trying to win cleanly. They're trying to drown us in ships. Even if we destroy 3 for everyone we lose, they'll still win through attrition. Major Woo Jun-han led special operations teams on dangerous missions behind enemy lines. His soldiers were experts in sabotage and infiltration. Now they prepared to strike at targets the Council thought were safe. Military MEs, research stations, command centers. Woo Jin believed that destroying the Council's ability to coordinate their forces was just as important as winning space battles. Cut off the head, and the body dies, he told his team. Let's give them nightmares. Back on Earth, citizens watched the news with mixed emotions. Pride in their military's victory, mixed with fear of what came next. The Council had ruled the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed. Could Earth really win against such an empire? Parents held their children closer, wondering if they would live to see peace. Soldiers reported to recruitment centers in record numbers, ready to defend their home. Scientists worked around the clock to improve weapons and shields. Every human alive understood that they were part of something historic, whether they wanted to be or not. Mino stood in the observation deck of the Indomitable, looking out at Earth. The blue planet hung in space, peaceful and beautiful. Billions of people down there were counting on him to keep them safe. He thought about his daughter, about all the children who deserved to grow up free. The Council wanted to take that away, to turn humanity into just another subject species. But they had made a mistake. They had given humanity a reason to fight with everything they had. Admiral Tormermac stood before the Council assembly, his uniform torn and burned from the battle at Mars. He had never experienced defeat before, and the shame burned worse than any physical wound around him. 300 species demanded answers. How had the humans destroyed 5,000 ships? Where had their fleet come from? Most importantly, how could the Council ensure this never happened again? The humans have been deceiving us, Tormach explained, his voice, for 30 years. While we believed they were weak, they were building a secret armada. Their technology is more advanced than our intelligence suggested. Their tactics are unlike anything in our military databases. They fight without honor, appearing from nowhere and vanishing before we can respond. High Chancellor Vexar slammed his clawed fist on the armrest. Excuses. You had 5,000 ships against what you thought was a primitive species. Now you tell me they destroyed most of your fleet. and you barely escaped with your life. His eyes burned with rage, and something else. Fear. For the first time in his long rule, Vexar was afraid that the Council might actually lose a war. The Velkari ambassador stood, his armored body creaking. I volunteer to lead the Second Armada against these humans. Give me 12,000 ships and I will crush Earth completely. No more underestimating. No more mercy. We will turn their homeworld into dust. Vexar considered this. The Second Armada was the pride of the Council military, equipped with the newest weapons and crewed by elite warriors from dozens of species. 12,000 ships should be more than enough to overwhelm even 8,000 human vessels. Very well. You have 3 weeks to prepare. Gather your forces at Kratham. When you launch, I want Earth erased from existence. While the Council planned their revenge, humanity was far from idle. Colonel Dane worked day and night interrogating captured Council soldiers and analyzing data from the seized ships. What he discovered made him call an emergency meeting with Admiral Minho and Dr. Hyen. The three of them sat in a secure room deep inside Earth's military headquarters, reviewing documents that changed everything. They were always going to kill us, Dune said quietly, bringing up a classified Council file on his tablet. This document is dated 6 months before they demanded our colonies. It's a complete plan for human extinction. They were going to demand tribute. We would refuse, because the demands were impossible. And then they would use our refusal as an excuse to exterminate our species. The outer colonies were never the real goal. They want us dead. Hijin felt sick. The Council had seemed evil but rational. Now she understood they were simply evil. Why? What did we do to them? We exist, Minho answered grimly. The Council maintains power through fear. Every species knows that defiance means death. But if humans can fight back and survive, other species might get ideas. We're dangerous because we prove the Council isn't invincible. He stood and walked to the window overlooking Seoul. The city stretched for kilometers. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware of how close they had come to annihilation. We can't just defend anymore. We need to attack. Dr. Hijin pulled up tactical maps of Council territory. The Second Armada is assembling at Katham. It's a fortress world with massive orbital shipyards. If we let them gather their full strength, they'll overwhelm us through numbers alone. But if we strike while they're still preparing, Minho smiled coldly, we hit them before they're ready. Captain Yunji's Third Fleet is already raiding supply lines. Let's give them a bigger target. He opened a communication channel to the fleet. Within minutes, he had captains from 50 ships on the call, including Jiho, Jonho, and Taehyung. New mission. We're going to attack Kratham. The silence on the channel was heavy. Finally, Captain Jiho spoke. Sir, Kratham is one of the most offended locations in the galaxy. They have defense stations, minefields, and thousands of ships permanently stationed there. It's suicide, which is exactly why they won't expect it, Minho replied. They think we're going to hide in the Sol system and wait for them to attack. Instead, we're going to hit them at home. Commander Taeyong, your stealth ships will go in first and map their defenses. Captain Yunji, your fleet will strike the shipyards. Captain Jiho, you'll engage their defense fleet. We go in fast, do as much damage as possible, and get out before reinforcements arrive. Major Wu Jin had a different assignment. While the main fleet attacked Kratham, his special operations team would infiltrate Tarv Station, the Council's military intelligence headquarters. The station orbited a distant moon, filled with every strategic secret the Council possessed. You want us to break into their most secure facility during a war? Wu Jin asked, though he was already planning the operation in his head. I want you to steal their entire military database, Minho confirmed. Fleet positions, defense plans, weapon specifications, everything. If we're going to win this war, we need to know what we're fighting. Lieutenant Sora prepared her fighter squadron for the Kratham assault. Her fame had made her a target. Council propaganda now showed her face, calling her a terrorist, and promising rewards for her capture. She tried not to think about it. Fear was poison in combat. Instead, she focused on her training, running simulation after simulation until her movements were perfect. Her squadron mates looked up to her now, which was both inspiring and terrifying. If she failed, she would let down not just herself, but everyone who believed in her. Engineer Sunung Lim worked on a new weapon system that Dr. Hejun had designed. It was called the Singularity Lance, and it could create a focused gravitational wave that would tear apart any ship it hit. The technology was experimental and dangerous. The first 3 test firings had destroyed the weapon itself, along with the target. But the 4th test had worked, and now they were building singularity lances for installation on capital ships. If this works in actual combat, it will change everything, Zhang Xianghun told his team. If it fails, it might blow up our own ships. No pressure. As humanity prepared for their risky attack, the galaxy watched with growing interest. The Kurani Collective secretly sent messages to Earth, offering to share intelligence about Council military bases. They didn't dare openly ally with humanity yet, but they were starting to hope that the Council could be defeated. Other species whispered similar thoughts. For thousands of years, they had suffered under Council rule, too afraid to rebel. Now they saw a species willing to fight back, and it gave them courage. On Centrolis, Vexar reviewed reports from his spy network. Humans were preparing something, but his intelligence couldn't determine what. The uncertainty made him nervous. His entire rule was built on the idea that the Council was superior to every other species. If humanity could defeat them, his authority would crumble. Whatever the humans are planning, stop them, he ordered his military commanders. I don't care what it costs. Humanity must be destroyed before they inspire others to rebel. The Kratham system appeared peaceful in the hours before dawn. 3 orbital shipyards floated above the fortress world, each one the size of a small moon. Inside those yards, the Council's newest dreadnoughts were under construction. Massive warships that would form the core of the Second Armada. Defense stations ringed the planet, their weapons powered and ready. Admiral Tormarmac's flagship sat at the center of 12,000 ships, all preparing for the journey to Earth. Everything seemed secure. Then, humanity arrived. The Third Fleet dropped out of quantum displacement directly above the shipyards. There was no warning, no build-up. One moment, the space was empty. The next moment, 2,000 human warships materialized and opened fire. Captain Unji sat calmly in her command chair as chaos erupted around her target. All bombers, focus on the construction berths. Destroy those dreadnoughts before they can launch. All cruisers, target the defense stations. We have 30 minutes before reinforcements arrive. Make them count. Commander Mio led 300 bomber wings toward the nearest shipyard. Her ships were small and fast, designed to deliver devastating payloads and escape before the enemy could respond. Council fighters scrambled to intercept, but they were too slow. Human bombers danced between defensive fire, their AI-guided missiles, finding weak points in the shipyard structure. Target the power generators first, many ordered. No power means no shields. The first shipyard went dark as its generators exploded. Without shields, the massive structure was vulnerable. Human railguns tore into the construction berths, where 3 dreadnoughts sat half-finished-ish. Metal screamed as the ships broke apart. Billions of credits worth of military equipment turning into scrap. Council engineers fled, and escape pods knowing there was nothing they could do to save their work. Admiral Tormarmac screamed orders from his flagship trying to organize a defense, but his fleet was scattered across the system. Ships docked for resupply or undergoing maintenance. The human attack had caught them at their weakest moment. How did they know we would be here? How did they get past our scouts? No one had answers. They were too busy trying to survive. Lieutenant Sora flew her fighter through a storm of defensive fire. Her squadron's job was to keep Council fighters away from the bombers. She rolled and twisted, her training taking over as muscle memory. 3 enemy fighters pursued her, firing energy weapons that carved glowing trails through space. Sora led them directly toward a defense station, then pulled up sharply at the last second. The Council fighters couldn't react fast enough. They slammed into the station's shields and exploded. That's 3 more, she reported calmly, already searching for her next targets. On the planet below, Council ground forces watched helplessly as their orbital defenses crumbled. Captain Jiho's ships engaged Tormarmac's fleet, using the asteroid field on the system's edge for cover. Every time Council ships tried to form a battle line, human vessels appeared behind them, or above them, or from angles that should have been impossible. The quantum displacement drives made traditional tactics useless. Council admirals had trained their entire lives to fight conventional battles. They had no idea how to counter an enemy that could be everywhere at once. While the battle raged at Kratham, Major Wuzhen's team arrived at Tarv Station. The intelligence headquarters looked like a simple research station, but Wuzhen knew better. Inside were databases containing every Council military secret. Getting in would be nearly impossible. which was why Wu Jin didn't try to sneak in. Instead, his team pretended to be council soldiers delivering emergency supplies. The station guards, distracted by news of the attack at Kratham, waved them through without proper checks. Once inside, Wu Jin's team moved fast. Engineer Sun Yun hacked into the station's computer network, while soldiers secured the corridors. Alarms started blaring after 3 minutes. But by then it was too late. Sun Yun had already downloaded everything. Fleet positions, weapon designs, defensive plans, communication codes, and most importantly, a list of species secretly opposed to council rule. Got it all? He confirmed. Time to go. The team fought their way back to their ship, leaving explosive charges throughout the station. As they escaped, Tarv Station erupted in a series of explosions. The Council's military intelligence network went dark. For the first time in thousands of years, they were blind. They had no idea where their own fleets were, or what their enemies were planning. The confusion would last for days, maybe weeks. That delay could mean the difference between victory and defeat. Back at Kratham, the battle entered its final phase. 2 of the 3 shipyards were destroyed, along with 5 dreadnoughts that would never see combat. The 3rd shipyard was heavily damaged and would take months to repair. Admiral Tormarmac's fleet had lost 800 ships trying to defend against an enemy they couldn't pin down. But the Council reinforcements were coming. Detected on long-range sensors, Captain Yunji gave the order to withdraw. All ships displacement jump on my mark. Mission accomplished. Let's go home. The human fleet vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. Tormach sat in his command chair, surrounded by wreckage and failure. He had lost again. The 2nd Armada was crippled before it could even launch. Ships that should have been attacking Earth were now damaged or destroyed. The Council's timeline had been pushed back by months. And somewhere out there, humanity was celebrating another impossible victory. Lieutenant Yuna Shin had earned her place in the history books during the withdrawal. Her cruiser had been damaged by Council fire, its displacement drive malfunctioning. 3 Council destroyers closed in for the kill. Yuna's options were simple: surrender and be captured, or fight and die. She chose a 3rd option. Using only her ship's conventional engines and weapons, she held off all 3 destroyers for 47 minutes, giving her crew time to repair the drive. Her ship took terrible damage, but she kept fighting. When the drive finally came back online, she escaped with minutes to spare. Video of her desperate last stand spread across the fleet. She became a symbol of human determination, the soldier who refused to give up, no matter the odds. Dr. He Jian received the intelligence data from Wu Jun's raid and spent 3 days analyzing it. What she found changed everything. The Council's military was even weaker than she had thought. Their ships used standardized designs that hadn't been updated in centuries. Their tactics came from a manual written 2,000 years ago. Their soldiers were trained to fight inferior opponents, not equals. They're not warriors, she told Minho. They're bullies who've never been punched back. The moment someone fights effectively, they don't know what to do. More importantly, the data revealed dozens of species that hated the Council, but were too afraid to rebel. The Karani Collective, the Helix Confederacy, the Sorani tribes, and many others. All of them had been conquered and forced to serve. All of them were waiting for someone to lead a rebellion. Mino studied the list and made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. We're fighting for everyone the Council has oppressed. Send envoys to these species. Offer them alliance. Together, we can end the Council's tyranny. Ambassador Valna of the Karani Collective stood in the conference room aboard the Indomitable, facing Admiral Minho across a table. Her people had suffered under Council rule for 600 years, their mining world stripped of resources while they received nothing in return. Now humanity offered her something the galaxy thought impossible, a chance to be free. You understand what you're asking? She said carefully. If we join you, the Council will try to destroy us. They'll make examples of our worlds. Minho nodded. They'll try, but they'll have to go through us first. Humanity doesn't abandon its allies. If you stand with us, we stand with you. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have will be used to protect your people. He brought up a star map showing Karani territory. Your mining operations produce rare metals that the Council's war machine depends on. If you stop supplying them, their ability to build ships drops by 40%. That alone makes you invaluable. Valna studied the human admiral. His species had been in space for barely a century, Yet they spoke of protecting civilizations that had existed for millennia. It should have seemed arrogant. Instead, it seemed honest. The Karani Collective accepts your offer of alliance. We will stop all shipments to Council worlds immediately. Our fleet of 600 ships will join yours, and we will spread word to other oppressed species that resistance is possible. Within days, the alliance grew. Captain Giwan Choi had been appointed as humanity's chief diplomat, and she traveled across the galaxy, meeting with species that the Council had conquered. Some refused out of fear, but many accepted, seeing in humanity a chance they thought would never come. The Helix Confederacy added 1,000 ships to the alliance. The Sorvani tribes contributed 800 more. Smaller species brought fewer ships, but crucial resources and intelligence. Within a month, the alliance fleet numbered 15,000 vessels. High Chancellor Vexar watched his empire crack like glass. Every day brought news of another defection. Species that had been loyal for centuries suddenly declared independence. Trade routes collapsed. Tax revenue dried up. Military bases found themselves surrounded by hostile populations. For 12,000 years, the Council had ruled through fear and overwhelming force. Now that fear was fading, replaced by hope that the Council could be defeated. His response was predictable and brutal. The Council fleet arrived at Karani Prime without warning. 20 warships took position above the planet's capital city. The Council commander broadcast a simple message. This is the price of betrayal. His ships charged their weapons, preparing to bombard the city and kill millions of innocent people. The message was clear. Defy the Council, and this happens to you. Humanity arrived first. The Fifth Fleet, commanded by Rear Admiral Sang-Hoon Park, had been stationed near Karani space specifically for this possibility. When sensors detected the Council attack fleet, Sang-Hoon gave orders immediately. His ships dropped out of quantum displacement between the Council vessels and the planet below. Council Commander, this is Admiral Park of the Terran Navy. You will stand down immediately. Any attack on civilian targets will be considered a war crime, and we will respond accordingly. The Council Commander laughed. You cannot stop us, human. We have authorization from the High Chancellor himself. This world will burn as an example. His ships continued charging their weapons, targeting the city below where 3 million Karani lived. Parents held their children, watching the sky and waiting to die. All ships activate shields and move into defensive formation, Sang-Hoon ordered calmly. His cruisers positioned themselves directly above the city, creating a barrier between the Council weapons and the civilians. If you want to kill those people, you'll have to go through us. The Council commander hesitated. His 20 ships outnumbered the 10 human cruisers protecting the city. He should have had the advantage, but he had seen battle reports from Mars and Crotham. Human ships were tougher than they looked, and their crews had proven willing to die protecting others. You would sacrifice your ships for these aliens? He asked, genuinely confused. The Council never protected conquered species. Why would humanity? We would, Sang-Hoon confirmed. And I should mention that my fleet's main battle group is arriving in 30 seconds. You have that long to withdraw. After that, we will treat your presence here as an act of war. The Council commander checked his sensors. Sure enough, human reinforcements were dropping out of displacement all around his fleet. Suddenly, his 20 ships faced 80. The math was no longer in his favor. He had come to punish rebels, not fight a battle he would lose. The Council will hear of this, he transmitted, trying to save face. His ships turned and fled. On the planet below, 3 million Karani watched human warships defend their home. They would never forget. Within hours, recordings of the incident spread across the galaxy. Dozens more species saw that humanity meant what it said about protecting allies. The alliance grew stronger. Dr. Hijin unveiled her latest achievement in a demonstration that made every allied species take notice. The Singularity Lance had been tested and refined until it was reliable. Now she showed what it could do. In a controlled environment, a human cruiser fired the weapon at an old Council battleship that had been captured at Mars. The gravitational beam struck the battleship center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire ship crumpled inward like paper, crushed by impossible forces. Within 5 seconds, a vessel that had been 2 kilometers long was reduced to a sphere of compressed metal 50 meters wide. This weapon ignores shields, Ajin explained to the shocked audience of Allied military officers. It can destroy any ship in the galaxy with a single shot. We're installing Singularity Lances on all capital ships. The Council's advantage in armor and shielding no longer matters. Commander Keong Su-yang led the liberation of 3 slave worlds in Council territory. His fleet arrived at each world, destroyed the orbital control stations, and freed the populations that had been forced to work in brutal conditions. The freed slaves told stories of torture and death, of families separated, and children worked until they collapsed. Humanity documented everything. These weren't just war crimes. They were evidence of what the Council truly was, an empire built on suffering. The Council's response grew more desperate. They attacked supply convoys, raided alliance colonies, and tried to assassinate human commanders. Major Wu Jun's special operations teams countered with their own raids, destroying Council communication relays and sabotaging fuel depots. The war spread across hundreds of systems, small battles erupting constantly as both sides tried to gain advantage. Lieutenant Commander Hinyong became famous for her precision bombing runs. She could put a missile through a window from 10 kilometers away. While dodging defensive fire, her squadron was assigned the most difficult targets, the ones that required perfect accuracy. She never missed. Council commanders learned to fear her name. When intelligence indicated Hein was in the system, they would evacuate their headquarters and hide their important equipment. But the war was taking its toll. Humanity had lost thousands of soldiers. Ships were damaged faster than shipyards could repair them. Resources were running low. The Alliance was stronger than ever. But the Council still controlled most of the galaxy. They had millions of ships scattered across thousands of worlds. Every battle humanity won was just one small victory in a war that seemed endless. Admiral Minho studied strategic maps late into the night, trying to find a way to end the conflict. The Alliance couldn't win through attrition. Eventually, the Council's superior numbers would wear them down. They needed something decisive, a blow that would shatter the Council's power permanently. He looked at the map center, where the planet Throne Prime glowed. The Council's capital world, home to billions of aliens, and protected by defenses that had never been breached in 12,000 years. An impossible target, which meant it was exactly where humanity needed to strike. 2 years after the war began, 50,000 ships gathered at the edge of Council space. Humanity's 8,000 vessels were joined by forces from 40 different species, all united by a common goal, ending the Council's tyranny forever. Admiral Minho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at representatives from civilizations that had suffered for centuries. Today, they would either win freedom for the entire galaxy or die trying. Throne Prime has never been successfully attacked. Ambassador Valna reminded him the Karani leader had become one of Minho's closest advisors. The Council spent 10,000 years building its defenses, defense stations that can destroy entire fleets, minefields that stretch for millions of kilometers, planetary shields that can withstand any weapon. And that's before we face their home fleet of 30,000 ships. Minho nodded. Everything you said is true, but the Council has one weakness they don't know about. They believe their defenses are perfect, so they've become lazy. Our intelligence from Tarvek Station showed us where the weak points are. We know the shield generator locations, the defense station blind spots, the minefield safe paths. They built walls to keep enemies out. We're going to walk through their front door. Captain Jiho commanded the breakthrough force, the ships that would punch through the outer defenses. His soul's vengeance had been upgraded with every piece of advanced technology humanity could build. Singularity lances, quantum displacement drives, AIG-guided weapon systems, and armor that could withstand hits from Council dreadnoughts. All ships ready, Admiral. Just give the word. High Chancellor Vexar watched from his throne room on Throne Prime, confident that his capital was untouchable. Reports indicated a large fleet gathering at the border, but he wasn't worried. Every species that had ever tried to attack Throne Prime had been destroyed. The humans would be no different. Let them come, he told his advisors. Let them break themselves against our defenses, while the galaxy watches their final defeat. The battle began at dawn on Throne Prime. The Alliance fleet dropped out of quantum displacement in perfect formation, 50,000 ships appearing simultaneously. Defense stations immediately opened fire, their massive weapons designed to kill capital ships with single shots. But the Alliance had learned from 2 years of warfare. Ships moved in coordinated patterns, sharing shield strength and covering each other. Where one ship was weak, 3 others protected it. Captain Jiho's breakthrough force charged directly at the main defense line. Council weapons hammered his shields, but he didn't slow down. All ships, Activate singularity lances. Target those defense stations. 20 beams of focused gravitational energy reached out and touched the stations. Metal screamed as the massive structures crumpled like paper. Explosions rippled across the defensive perimeter as billions of tons of military hardware turned into compressed scrap. Lieutenant Commander Hein Young flew her bomber toward Throne Prime's planetary shield generator. It was buried deep in the northern continent, protected by layers of shields and defensive weapons. Getting to it should have been suicide, but Hein had flown impossible missions before. Her squadron wove through defensive fire so thick it looked like a solid wall. 5 kilometers to target. Steady, steady. Her AI co-pilot calculated the perfect firing solution, compensating for wind, gravity, and defensive countermeasures. Missile away. The quantum-guided missile streaked downward, swerving around interceptor fire. It struck the shield generator's primary power core and detonated. The explosion was small, barely noticeable from orbit, but its effect was enormous. Throne Prime's planetary shield flickered and died. For the first time in 10,000 years, the capital world was vulnerable. Commander Tahong's stealth ships had infiltrated the system days earlier, hiding among asteroids and waiting for this moment. Now they struck at communication relays, cutting off the Council's ability to coordinate their defense. Without communications, the 30,000 defending ships became 30,000 individual vessels, each fighting alone, without knowing what their allies were doing. Major Wu Jin's Marines launched from assault carriers, targeting the Council citadel directly. Thousands of soldiers in powered armor crashed through the building's walls, fighting their way inward. Council guards defended desperately, but they were palace soldiers trained for ceremony more than actual combat. Wu Jin's Marines were veterans of 2 years of brutal warfare. They moved through corridors like a machine, clearing rooms with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Sora led the fighter screen, protecting the bombers and keeping Council interceptors away from the capital ships. She had been fighting for 2 years now, and every move was instinct. Her squadron faced 3,000 enemy fighters, outnumbered but not outmatched. Human fighters were faster, deadlier, and piloted by soldiers who had proven themselves in countless battles. Break by pairs. Standard combat spread. Let's show them how humans fight. The battle raged for 3 days. Both sides threw everything they had into the fight. Council dreadnoughts traded fire with Alliance capital ships at point-blank range. Fighters dogfought in the atmosphere while bombers struck ground targets. Marines fought hand-to-hand in the Citadel's corridors. The casualties were terrible on both sides, but slowly, inevitably, the Alliance pushed forward. Dr. Hijin coordinated the technical aspects of the battle from a command ship, analyzing data and finding weaknesses in real time. When sensors detected a Council superweapon charging, she calculated its location and sent coordinates to Captain Jonho's destroyer squadron. The superweapon was destroyed before it could fire, saving thousands of Alliance ships. On the morning of the 3rd day, Major Wu Jin and his team breached the Council chambers. High Chancellor Vexar stood surrounded by his personal guard, still confident he could escape. You cannot kill me, human. I am the Council. Without me, the galaxy falls into chaos. Wu Jun raised his weapon but didn't fire. You're right. We're not going to kill you. We're going to arrest you and put you on trial for crimes against the galaxy. Every species you've oppressed, every world you've destroyed, every innocent life you've taken. You'll answer for all of it. Vexar laughed bitterly. And who will judge me? Your primitive species. You know nothing of ruling a galaxy. We won't judge you, Wu En replied calmly. They will. He gestured to the doorway where representatives from 40 species entered the chamber. Kurani, Helix, Svani, and dozens of others. All of them had suffered under Council rule. All of them would have a voice in deciding Vexar's fate. The High Chancellor's confidence finally cracked. He realized that he had not just lost a battle, he had lost an empire. Admiral Minho broadcast from the Council chambers to every planet in the galaxy. His message was simple and direct. The Council is dissolved. High Chancellor Vexar is in custody and will face justice for his crimes. But this is not humanity's victory alone. This belongs to every species that fought for freedom, that refused to accept tyranny. Starting today, we build something new. A galactic government where every species has a voice, where laws protect all people, not just the powerful, where military force serves justice, not conquest. The response was overwhelming. Across thousands of worlds, populations celebrated. Species that had been enslaved for centuries were suddenly free. The galaxy erupted in joy and hope, but humanity knew the work was just beginning. Winning a war was one thing. Building a lasting peace would be much harder. Captain Yunji was promoted to admiral and given the responsibility of reconstruction efforts. She coordinated humanitarian aid to worlds damaged by the war. Dr. Hijin shared human technology freely, refusing to keep any secrets that could help other species improve their lives. Major Wuan worked with security forces from dozens of species to hunt down council war criminals who tried to escape justice. On Earth, in a park overlooking Seoul, workers carved names into Blackstone. 43,000 humans had died in the war. Each name was recorded, each life honored. Parents came to touch the names of children who would never come home. Spouses mourned partners lost in distant battles, but they also felt pride. Their sacrifice had freed an entire galaxy. Lieutenant Sora attended the memorial dedication. She had survived the war, though her fighter had been shot down twice, and she bore scars that would never fully heal. As she looked at the names of friends and comrades, she thought about what they had accomplished. "We showed them," she whispered. "We showed the galaxy that humans don't give up, that we fight for what's right, no matter the cost." Admiral Minho retired from active service, though he continued to advise the new galactic government. He spent his days with his daughter, making up for years of absence during the war. When reporters asked him about humanity's role in galactic affairs, his answer was always the same. "We're not conquerors. We're not rulers. We're defenders. Anyone who threatens freedom will face humanity's response. But anyone who seeks peace will find humanity's friendship." The Council had declared war, expecting an easy victory over a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that fought not for territory or resources, but for principles. A species that valued freedom above safety, that would risk everything to protect the innocent.